Well, let's talk about, in search of purpose. I was thinking very deep about this question, in search of purpose. To be very honest with you, I was born into a poor family. We never had much. And to be very honest with you, the family had to struggle a lot, especially when it comes to, education and things like that. Um, I can show you like the first picture. This is me. This is Belinda. I know I look like a me and Pao, we call it like a Pao Min. I had a nickname called Pao Min because I looked like a Pao when I was young. And this picture is not very clear, kind of cute. I was quite disappointed when it came out blur because I thought I was quite cute in that picture. I hardly looked very cute when I was young, to be honest. And as I grew up, I looked even worse. To be honest with you, because my family was so poor, when my mom found out that she had me, she actually attempted abortion many, many times. And for some strange reason, I refused to come out. And in the end, my auntie said, why don't you just keep the child, and we will try our very best to help the family. And here I am. And every time I would kind of joke with my mom, like, Mama, you're very heng, my face never turned bengkok or something wrong with me, because, I grew up in such a tough environment, and I was grateful that I didn't go wayward, And, my mom, she is such an amazing person, and she has managed to help me to, raise me up to be the person whom I am today. And for many, many years, I was searching for a greater meaning in life. At a very young age, because I always felt very rejected and abandoned, I always asked myself, who am I? What am I doing here on this earth, and what is my purpose? You must be thinking, wow, so young, so mature, man, can think so much. It's true, because I grew up in an environment where everyone was telling me that, Belinda, you're never good enough. You're good for nothing, and you'll never measure up to anything in life. I grew up like that, thinking that I was a reject. I was a nobody's child. That was what was in my heart, but nobody knew. So in school, even in teachers and all these different children and people around me, they never encouraged me. I never knew what encouragement was all about. And I only had O-levels qualifications. So when I grew up, I always felt very inadequate. And deep down in my heart, I had a little desire. I wish I would be given a chance to travel around the world. And true enough, when I started to enter into the entertainment industry, I was given many, many chances to travel. And for the past 10 years, I'm truly grateful with all my heart that my company has given me a lot of opportunities to travel. So they took me to all these very far-flung places, hard places, to interview people who left Singapore for various reasons. They could have left Singapore because they were pursuing a dream. They left Singapore because of humanitarian work, because of love, all kinds of reasons. Now, the first Singaporean whom I came across, this is this amazing Bollywood-looking star, Ravi. He is the first Singaporean humanitarian whom I've met in 2006. He is an amazing guy because he was highly educated, came from a very good family in Singapore, but after his visitation to India, he decided that he wanted to do something back in India. In fact, he actually converted one of his ancestral house, which looks very much like a mini Taj Mahal, into an orphanage. And in fact, he travels all over India to set up orphanages everywhere so that he's able to bring up these children to be fine citizens of India. That was what he told me. I said, why do you even bother? Why do you want to spend so much time and so much effort, so much of your life giving to all these children, and what do you get in return? And he said, but Belinda, I want to do my part because I feel that these children, they deserve a second chance. And more importantly, I just want to shelter them. I want to love them. I want to take care of them. I want to educate them so that they will grow up to be fine citizens of Singapore. And he took me out to the streets in India, where there are millions and millions of homeless people. This boy, for instance, Ravi has known him for quite some time. And we went to the streets again and we spoke to him, and he was, checking us out and wondering, like, what are we doing and all, because we had a camera, everything happening around us. And he agreed to actually come home with us. Okay, as you see, up Naga over there, it means home for the children, right? He's got different homes at Gorakhpur, he's got homes at New Delhi, all these different places. So what Ravi does is that he travels in the train, and he travels 3 to 4 times a week so that he's able to go to different homes to visit his children. And where does he get the money? To be very honest with you, he does not have a lot. So what he does is that he will try to look for abandoned warehouses, abandoned houses which are deemed haunted even. And what he will do is that he will try with very, very little money, he will buy those land houses over, or sometimes they come for free, right? Because they said, oh, it's abandoned, it's so too dirty, nobody wants to build land over there, like a property there. So he will take over these warehouses and transform them into loving homes for his children. So they came to the house, what they did was they stuffed a lot of naan, a lot of chapati, a lot of stuff into their mouths, and then we were supposed to shelter them. But these children, they didn't believe in getting themselves contained in a house. So what they did is they stuffed a lot, they stuffed into their pocket, potatoes, bread, you name it, and then the next day they ran away. All they wanted was to eat. That's all. But Ravi will never give up. He will then again take his time, go back to the railway stations. He knows all the railway stations. He goes back there again and try to talk to them again. Every single day, this is what he does, just because he would love to take them home. And there were so many. I was traveling on a train together with Ravi everywhere. And, I was asking him, why are you doing that? He said, I need to give and the equal amount of love to all my children, because every time when he leaves the home, oh my gosh, the entire house will be filled with so much crying. They're like, Papa, no, Papa, don't leave us. Like, he's never ever going to come back. That's because they loved him so much that they don't ever want him to go. So every time he leaves together with me, I would end up crying too, because I would grow very attached to some of them. And I look at these children in school uniform. This is how they look, very neat. And we would, together with these school uniform children, we would go out to the railway station to befriend some other street children. So because they're all in uniforms, they're all so neat and so handsome looking, right? A lot of these street children will be very, very curious about their lives. Like, oh, you used to be like me, but now you look different. You look very clean. You look fatter. You look better. And they would eventually come with us, because they see living testimonies in front of them, like, hey, you seem to have a better life than me. Why don't I just come home with you, right? So it's great whenever we could bring these children together with us to the railway stations. And these children, yes, they may have a better life now. They go to school, they go through, they have a proper system at home. But many of them, they suffer from heartaches. They suffer from a huge sense of abandonment. And this boy in blue, if you can see, he's very special to me. He was the first to come and hug me when I went to India, and he was also the first to hug me when I left. His name is Abnuva. He's special to me. When I saw him, he was different from the rest because of his skin. His skin was very rough and patchy, like elephant skin. And I asked Ravi, does he have some kind of skin allergy, skin disease? And he said, yeah, that was what the doctor said. We didn't know that. Actually, he was diagnosed much later after I left. He felt very ill because he was diagnosed with HIV, with AIDS, from his parents, of course. And he died in Ravi's arms. He died in Ravi's arms, and before he died, I was told he had blisters all over. He was in a hospital bed asking, Papa, can I have some tea? Papa, can I have some chapati? And Ravi held on to Abnavu and broke down and allowed him to just die in his arms. And I asked Ravi, Ravi, why are you doing so much when your heart gets broken again and again? And he tells me, he said, Belle, if I don't do this, who else is going to do this? I'm just glad that in that short 10 years of his life, I was able to give him happiness. I was able to show him what a parent's love, what a father's love is all about. But it was painful. It was filled with so much heartache for Ravi. Time and time again, he would bawl his eyes out. But in my book, it's written very clearly. He truly loved all his children. He loves his children. It's not just a past tense, but it's a present tense. He loves his children. And in his love, there is often pain. And in this pain, Ravi found even more love to give. And that's the reason why, for me, he will always be an inspiration. Then look at him. This is what he comes home to all the time. And they will put flowers on his hair. They call him Papa. This is how much he has been loved. And he told me one thing. He doesn't want to get married. He's so handsome, highly educated and all. That's because he told me, he said, I just want to dedicate my entire life to my children. And I'm very glad to hear that his parents gave him his blessings. And for me, you gave up on status. It did not matter to Ravi which caste he belongs to, well-to-do, not well-to-do. It does not matter. All he cares about is, I want my children to know that they are loved, that their papa loves them with all his heart, that it does not, all these things, materialism, status, name, whatsoever, it does not matter to him at all. And now quickly we'll move on to Fang Fang. Fang Fang is this angel. I feel that she's God sent. At the moment I met her, she was based in China in a place called Fugong. In fact, a lot of Chinese people in China, they have no idea where Fugong is. It is that ulu. It is that, isolated. And Fang Fang is a psychotherapist. Yes. So what she does is that she actually goes up to the mountains in China, in Fugong, to reach out to a lot of these mental patients. Yeah, so that, because a lot of these people, because they're not educated, the Lisus, they don't understand that mental depression, mental illness can be treated. So they always think that, oh, if you're crazy, you must be locked up. If you're crazy, you must be chased out of the village. You cannot stay here. This is the mentality. And this is when Fang Fang plays a part. She comes into the picture. She climbs hours and hours and hours high up to the mountains so that she's able to minister to a lot of these mental patients. And this little girl is named Acha. Acha is, she's just a little bit slower than most children, but she looks like a boy because her hair is so short. So, a lot of people don't really appreciate her, they don't really like her, but what Fang Fang does is Fang Fang would spend a lot more time with these people who are usually rejected. And there are children whom she needs to counsel as well, because there will be landslides, because they live in the mountains, so you often have landslides, mudslides, and then many of these children, they would lose their parents to all these disasters. And she would need to counsel them a lot. In fact, many of these children, they would witness with their own eyes how their parents or their relatives, their brothers and sisters get swallowed up in these mudslides and landslides. So it's not very pleasant. So a lot of them, they live with a lot of trauma, and that's when Fang Fang would come into the picture to counsel them and to, talk to them. And this little boy, very cute boy, as you can see, he was bandaged up. It was Fang Fang who did all these bandaging for him because nobody takes care of him. He was probably like 1.5 years old, or maybe, 更小一点, right? And he was just playing on his own, and guess what? He stepped into a huge pot of pig's food, hot boiling pig's food. And his whole leg was scalded. It was very bad. And that was when Fang Fang, even though she's not a trained doctor, but she brought all the necessary medication to clean her up so that she will not have a bad infection. You see, so that she does more than just being a psychotherapist. She takes care of the needs of these people as well. So children like that, they grow up to be tough people, right? Because 从小到大, nobody cares, nobody bothers, so they have to fend for themselves, they have to learn how to take care of themselves. Now, what I'm going to show to you, it's going to be quite shocking, because in this part of China, in fact, in many parts of China, especially up in the mountains, when people are deemed crazy, like, oh, you have a mental issue, they're usually locked up. And they're usually locked up in this kind of pig's pen kind of places, right? They're meant for pigs and chickens, but human beings are locked up in there. And this is how it looks like. This is Ati. He was 26 years old when I visited him high up in the mountains. And when I saw him, I couldn't believe what I saw, because he was a handsome young man. I would have married him, honestly. Good-looking man. I was like, wow, how come you look like some TVB star? You look handsome. And I was expecting to see a crazy-looking person, but no, he wasn't. And he stood there, and I kind of tried to find out what happened to him. Why was he being locked up? Because he looked absolutely sane to me. Why was this man locked up? Apparently, when he was 18 years old, his stepfather abused him so badly to a point that he turned a little crazy. And usually in the mountains, when a woman has to remarry, to them it is, a taboo, right? So let's say if you have to remarry, if you get abused, you get abandoned, you get mistreated, it's the norm. Why? Because you have remarried another man. So for him, as the son of this woman, he actually allowed himself to be abused by this stepfather. And one day, he decided to burn down the house in the mountain. So the entire village, right, started to ridicule him. They started to point fingers at him and call him crazy. You are crazy, you're crazy, you ought to be locked up. It got so bad to a point that he decided that this is it. Maybe this is the way it should be. And what was shocking to me was when Fang Fang told me, when everyone, the whole world told him he was crazy, he actually believed that he was crazy. And what he did was, he actually stood on that spot, that specific spot, squatted down and allowed the villagers to build a pig's pen around him. And he was locked up for 8 years, 8 solid years. It was that short. So he couldn't stand. He didn't stand up for 8 years, and he was always in that position. And guess what? This picture is precious because I call him Ati, and he actually extended his hand. He wanted to shake my hand. And for the very first time, he actually looked at people. So I got excited. I was like, oh my gosh, he was looking at me. And I was just looking at the camera, trying to be goofy. I said, I think it's because I'm a menu, that's why he would look at me. But because he refused to communicate with anyone for 8 years. So it was a miracle, little things like that, for him to respond, for him to extend his hand to give you a handshake. It meant a lot to us. So you tell me, is he really crazy? I don't think so. And in his eyes, I saw a spirit that was eager to come out, a spirit that wants to live a full life, a spirit that wants to find love, a spirit that wants to get married and have a good family. But what happened to him? He was locked up for 8 years. And miraculously, after we produced the show, it was aired on TV. For some strange reason, he was released. But in less than a year, he died of organ complications. Oh my God, I'm only left with 10 minutes. Oh no. Okay, I gotta hurry up. Yes, now moving on to Africa, Uganda. This Chinese guy, he's our Singaporean, and he works as a beekeeper. And I'm so glad that he's actually in the house with us today. A quick story on Lester. Before that, okay, these are all his bee boxes where he would harvest all his bees from there. And anyway, so he would train a lot of these bee farmers how to produce good honey, because a lot of these farmers, right, when they harvest all these honey, very often they would smoke these bees too much. They end up killing the bees. So for him, okay, I have to tell a very quick story as to why Lester went to Uganda, if you don't mind. Lester was a self-made millionaire when he was very young, in his 20s, right? And he was married already by then. But he was so, into making money that he actually neglected his wife at that time. And one day his wife came home, he was watching soccer, he told me actually on national TV, the wife just said, I want a divorce. And he just looked at her and said, okay, That's because at that time, he told me he was filled with a lot of pride, a lot of ego. And to him, it's like, okay lah, divorce. But deep down, of course, he did not feel good. And anyway, so it happened, and he didn't know how to face his family and his friends because everyone was asking him what happened to him. And he decided to pack up his bags and leave for Africa. And he went to this place, Uganda. Now, the thing is, the reason why I wanted to talk about Lester is because you would never ever believe that someone like Lester, who wanted to, run away to Africa thinking that it's a form of escape, he actually found his calling in life at that place to become a beekeeper, right? And how is it even possible? That's because he told me one thing, the bees. Okay, by the way, just for a little bit of knowledge for all of you, all these worker bees are female. So if you handle them very roughly, they will sting you. So the thing is, what happened was to Lester, he was stung thousands of times to a point that sometimes he slips into a coma because African bees are known as one of the most aggressive bees in the world. Yeah, that's the reason why, if you handle them, you really need to handle them with a lot of care. Okay, now we tried to experience what was it like to harvest bees, honey, I would say. And so after he has mastered what beekeeping is all about, he would go out to the village to teach all the different villages, to teach all these bee farmers to take care of bees in the right way, to produce honey in the right way. He would tell these people, I am a poor man. What I can give you is not money, but what I can give you is my knowledge. I can share with you how to keep bees. No magic, no juju, because there's a lot of black magic being performed in Africa. We borrow the bees' honey, and when you look after them, they won't bite you or kiss you. So from Lester, for me, I have learned one big lesson, that for Lester's life, it was something, I asked him, like, what happened to you? Then why did you change? It was the bees that changed him. It's nature that changed him. And it was something as small as a bee that can transform a man with a hardened heart. Because he knew that when you take care of them, it's very much like handling a relationship with women, right? If you get, upset with a woman and you start fighting, whatever, the woman will bite. Aha! So for him, he has learned through these bees that it was them who taught him a great lesson of what humility is all about, what tender, loving care is all about. So for me, this is such an important lesson to learn, and it's through bees and nature. So I thought, hey, I should share this interesting story with you, right, Lester? And now moving on to this Manila trip where I had to stay in a cemetery next to all these tombs. I had to sleep next to all these tombs and dead people. It was quite an experience as well. So one day, I went there to visit a caretaker and to also experience what a cemetery caretaker's life is all about. So Rizalito is his name, and he told me, he said, Belinda, I need to go, take out some bones now. This body was buried in 1940s, so the family would like to take it back to the States. So can you help me to take out the bones? I'm like, okay. You see, this is my life. I do all this kind of crazy, exciting jobs. And yeah, we opened it up, and you know what? I didn't know what I was doing, and in the end, I just had to pick up the courage and pick up a skull. I didn't dare to scream because it's very embarrassing. To him, it's a normal thing, so I had to just contain all my emotions, just took up the skull. I'm like, this is the skull. It had hair on it. It was very dense and very heavy because, it's very humid in Manila. So, when they decompose, they don't become dry bones. They're still wet. Yeah. And, but the thing about his story, I must quickly tell you, the reason why I wanted to share with you about this caretaker story is because from this caretaker, I've learned so much. Because the moment I took out that skull, I had a newfound respect for Rizalito, the caretaker. And this is a job that not many people would want to do because they would call it very lowly. But for the caretaker, he did it with such care. I couldn't help but respect him for what he did. And that's the reason why I decided to write down this code, that I realized that whether you're a cemetery caretaker, you're a teacher, you're a CEO, you're a cleaner, you're a kalanguni, it does not matter. Because fulfillment is not about how much you earn, but how much value you see in what you do. And value is not determined by profession, but by how much respect you have for yourself and your job. So for me, that was an eye-opening experience, that Rizalito was an amazing caretaker, and he was an amazing father to Morris, who's very fat and cute, and his dream is to become a news anchor one day. David Sito was an engineer, and he at 60 years old, he decided to move to Mongolia to kind of work in an organization, a charity organization. At 60 years old, he hated mutton, he hated the cold. Why Mongolia? Because he knew that it was something that he needed to do. As I'm showing you this picture, it is with a very heavy heart, because a year after interviewing David Sito, he passed on, he died. And in fact, quite a number of people whom I've interviewed and featured in my book, they have all passed on. For David, he's very special. He had a heart problem, but he told his wife, let me go to Mongolia and let me do what I need to do. So I didn't know that this was my last picture taken with David. I didn't know that this last hug was actually the very last one between us. And I never saw him again. David was special. He took me to many places. He could have just retired and stay back in Singapore and have a very comfortable retirement. He did not have to go to Mongolia. He did not have to do this. And he took me to some poor places where you can see this man. These holes are called manhole, where a lot of the poor, they live inside these manhole. And inside the hole, you can live up to 2 people, 3 people, 4 people, where they have all these gas pipes. And because these gas pipes during winter, it's hot, right? Steam would come out. So many of them would try to hide inside to keep themselves warm because many of them are homeless. So he took me out to look at some of these manhole, which is filled with a lot of dirt and cockroaches. Now he took me to visit one of his patients as well, whom he was trying to help. And he took me to the poorest place in Ulaanbaatar. And this is how it looks like. Even the cows out there are so scrawny looking because they've got nothing to eat. And back then it was during winter. Now we took this picture after we visited a very special lady, and her name is Ture. Whatever that I'm going to show you, I just want you to be a bit ready because it's not going to be a very pleasant sight. So Ture is her name. She was 27 years old, and she lives in shanty town, and she lives in a house like this. It was very cold in there, and she lives with her mother. So now, the reason why we needed to visit her is because she was very, very ill. This is Ture lying flat in bed. She was a graduate, beautiful, but at the age of 21, she was diagnosed with a very, very serious illness. And she has to be bedridden for 7 years. Now, the next picture that I'm going to show you, be ready. When the doctors came with us, they needed to clean her up because she started to develop a lot of pressure ulcers all over her body. And when they lifted up the blanket, this was what I saw. Ture was in great suffering. And at that time, to be very honest with you, she had diabetes as well because of all these complications, and her leg was supposed to be amputated, but the mom wanted to keep it. In fact, they said that as they were cleaning her up, she wasn't supposed to feel a thing. But it's strange because as they were cleaning her up, I remember all these big holes. What they did was they had to kind of pull out, like tissue paper from these holes, and it's like strings and strings of it, and it was all drenched with pus. And so they said it wasn't going to be painful. And when I looked at her face, she had this look, and I was like, please be gentle, I think she was in pain. And all of a sudden, she broke out into a big, beautiful sunshine smile. She did this. I was like, what's happening? Aren't you in pain? She was speaking in Mongolian, so I had no idea. You know, we couldn't communicate. But what allowed us to communicate were our eyes and the way she held my hand. You know, and one thing, the first thing she looked at me, she's like, welcome to my home. So happy to know that you're here to visit me. I am very, very happy to see you. By the way, can you see my earrings? You know, she was wearing an earring, she was wearing a ring, and she was telling me, can you see all these things? My mama made them for me. I want to look beautiful, so I'm wearing all these things for you. And I was like, you look like you're someone who's going to die. But she was filled with so much positivity. At that time, to be very honest with you, I came out from a relationship, a 6-year relationship, and I was suffering from depression, almost to a point that it was quite severe. But because of my travelogue, I had no choice but to continue to travel and do my interviews. And when I was told about Ture, before going to the house to visit her, I thought to myself, oh, I'm just not ready. I don't want to see things that I don't want to see because I think I'll get even more depressed. Okay, no, I need to hold myself together. But you know what? The thing is, when I saw her, because of that smile that she gave me, I realized one thing. Life is not, it's not the end of my life. Just because I broke up, so what? But life has to continue. Why? Because, Belinda, you have a voice. You are a host. You are healthy. You can move around. You can do so much more with your life. But why is it you wanted to end your life? I wanted to end my life, and here I was. I saw a lady who was lying in bed who was about to die. She was struggling so hard to stay alive, and I just so wanted to die. And at this point, I was very ashamed when I saw her. I couldn't help, but I broke down and I wept. And I wept. Because here she was lonely. She was probably disappointed with life too. Age 27, she could have found a boyfriend. She could have found a very good job because she's a graduate. She could have a beautiful life. But here she was in her loneliness, in her disappointment. But she never gave up. And for me, what I saw was Ture was probably the most physically broken person I've ever seen. But I think I was the most emotionally broken person I had ever been. And at that point, we were two broken people trying to keep afloat, and over there she was radiating with peace and joy, and I was a total mess. That was what was happening to me. And I told her, I said, Ture, I held on to her hand. We played wrestling a little bit, though I knew I could win, but I allowed her to win, of course, right? Just to, give her that positivity, to let her know that, hey, she can play games. And I told her, I said, I thank you for giving me courage. I thank you. There was that strength when I held on to her hand. I felt that there was strength that was flowing between us. But you know what? It's not so much of my strength flowing to Ture. It was Ture's strength and courage that flowed right into my spirit, that brightened up my heart to tell me that, Belinda, you must not give up. She has the courage to move on. She has the courage to wake up every single day believing that she's going to be alive for another day. So you need to be stronger than that. And that was when I decided to pick up the pieces and live my life with courage. And like what David said, he said, never put off till tomorrow what you can do today. And over here, for both David and Ture passed on shortly after we interviewed her because of organ failures, complications. But the both of them, they came into my life for just a very short season. But I'm deeply thankful for what they have done because of the impact that they have left on me. And I could almost hear them telling me this as I'm speaking to you. Belinda, you live each moment with purpose, with peace, and with love. There is joy to be found within us, with all the friendships and relationships that I have, that life is too short for anything less. And this is what I will always remember for the rest of my life, that the reason why I'm here is not to tell you how great I am as a person. It's because of all these ordinary people living extraordinary lives. It's because at the end of the day, what they live for is not for themselves. They live for others. They just want to fulfill one thing in their lifetime, and that is a purpose. I don't know how many of you out there in this room, you came into this museum, you came into this auditorium with a lot of issues in your heart, thinking to yourself, what can I do, Belinda, with my life? Or it's something that you don't share with people. You come with a broken heart. You could be hurting. You could be retrenched. You could be facing a midlife crisis. Whatever the reason is, I want to thank each and every one of you for coming here to listen to these amazing stories, because the human spirit has to be celebrated. You know what? They're no CEO. They're not your Bill Gates. They're not your Mother Teresa. But they all can do a lot of great things. There is one quote that I especially love, and I will live by that every single day of my life, that not everyone is born to be a leader. Not everyone is born to be a mayor. It's true. Not everyone is born to do great things like, Bill Gates, Mother Teresa. But I believe in one thing. Every single one of us in this room, we are all born to do small things in a great way. We are all born to do small things in a great way. And for those of you who are searching for a calling in your life now, you don't know what it is. Trust me, just like what happened to me. Every single day, I'm just diligent in what I do. I just do my job well as a host. I just do my job well when I interview people. That's all I do. I use my heart to talk to people. It's all about relationships. And when you're able to open up your hearts, lend a listening ear to someone who is in need, why don't you just look around, the people around you? You'll be amazed to find there's so many hurting souls out there for you to reach out to. So like what I said, live life with a purpose does not mean that you have to be a celebrity, does not mean that you have to be somebody big. Live life with a purpose, using your life as a great testimony for the people around you, because you will never know who you will touch, who you will inspire and motivate. So I sincerely hope that all of you can go back to your own homes tonight before you sleep. Think about what I just shared. It's not a lecture over here to tell you what to do and what not to do, but it's just look deep within your heart and tell yourself, hey, there must be something that I'm good at doing. And I know that if I persevere and I pursue that calling in my life, I know I am eventually going to find it, that little voice that says, live out your destiny. So thank you so much for having me tonight. Really appreciate you. Thank you.